Oh, here we are live.
Oh,
So,
we're here.
yes,
Hi, everyone.
another moon. Aren't we lucky? I I'm hoping everyone is ready for the evening of renewing your relationship with the grandmother. And grandmother has been with us since the time of creation, and we are so lucky that she's still fulfilling her duty. As we are told, she would be there to guide us. And because of her own life experience, she knew what we were going to go through. So this is why we we give thanks for all her knowledge. And so to all of you that are just new to this, and for all those young ones that are coming on board, I would really honor you at this time because you are connecting, connecting to your spirit, because your spirit's been saying, Grandma, what do you need to tell me, Grandma? And so Grandma's been there waiting for you. And so um, we at this time would like to start off with a opening. And so I'm going to ask Gail to do an opening for us tonight because we take turns.
Well, good evening, everyone. I don't know if tonight's the best night to do the opening. I have my cute little grandson beside me. We just hopped into the cold truck, and he's cold, so I'm trying to warm him up. But I guess I would just love to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I would put my camera on, but I'm in a vehicle, so all you would see is the black. So you wouldn't be able to see me and my cute little grandson anyway. Um, so when we do an opening, I guess the easiest way to describe an opening is to bring our hearts and bring our minds together as one, so that as we talk about our beautiful grandmother, we can all be on the same page and we can all be thinking of, how beautiful she was. Talk to Mother Earth. Last night, and my grandson says we gotta talk to Mother Earth, and so we do have to talk to Mother Earth because she is influenced by the beautiful rays of the moon as well, and we are children of Mother Earth, and so we are certainly influenced by the beautiful rays of Mother Earth too. So as we bring our minds together, we think we think I guess the fact that we are here at this time and that we can really feel the beauty and really feel the love that we are experiencing, even though there's a lot of, I guess you would call, excitable energies right now. There's something so beautiful deep within. So we give thanks that we are here tonight so that we can feel and be in the essence of, something fantastic and some great beauty. And as you look up at Grandma tonight, just hold your hands over your heart and just feel the love that comes from all of the all of the energy that she. I need to call Grandma. Yes, from all of the energy. No, no, no. Here, buddy. Um, so. So as we bring our minds and our hearts together and we have our this moment. Music. Don't no. Like I said, tonight is kind of like a little distracting. Hey, Lyle, please no, okay? Um, so usually we introduce ourselves. We let you know who we are, where we're from. So Sego Sewa Gwego Katine Nyongyats. I am Mohawk from Six Nations of the Grand River Territory here in balmy southern Ontario. And it's really oh no, what did you do? It's really a pleasure to share with you tonight that we are sending and feeling the love from our grandmother tonight. So, as my young grandson here, feels the love and wants some of my attention. So does Grandma Moon. She also loves and feels that attention as all of us earthlings, look towards her and send beautiful prayers. And so she wraps her beautiful rays of light around us in a loving and kind hug. So I'll turn it back over to Grandmother, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Lyle. It was nice to hear male being a part of our ceremony. As a young man, it is good to see them with us. And sego, sewa kwego, ganiti sa youngets, wagatsioni, wagonya dehane. I come from Six Nation. I am Kuga Bear, and my father is Mohawk, and my mother is Kuga. And so I am so proud to be a granddaughter, to be a daughter, to be a mother, to be an auntie, and most of all, a helper. And on these nights of the moon, I am reminded of all the things that my grandma had taught me. And I'm very lucky that both my grandmothers who were residential schools, that went to residential school, that they had married into families that had the knowledge. And so I'm so blessed that, that spirit talks to us, even when we're little. When we're little, it talks to us. And we see our ancestors. And that's one thing we shouldn't be afraid of. Sometimes we see a stranger in our dreams or someone standing over our bed. And today, a lot of people are afraid. But you know what? That may be your great great grandpa. That may be your great 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 grandmother. Because you don't know her doesn't mean she has come here to cause you harm. She just comes here to, as they say, to check in on you, to make sure. You see, love is the strongest medicine that can reach between the two worlds. And that's what I always being reminded by my father. And that is so true because Grandmother Moon, she's shining her love down, just like Grandmother Gail had mentioned. That love is so strong. That love is of unconditional. She knows the trials and the struggles that we're going to go through. And so she's there, not only full moon, she's there for the first quarter, she's there for the full moon, she's there for the last quarter, and she's there for the new moon. You see, that's how much we are to be reminded of self-care. So I hope you will become more aware of that moon, that 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 relationship, because you see, she's pulling that water from you. And yes, you're very emotional during these times. All creation is very emotional. And do the creation story, we always need to know why. How come? You see, one of the first lessons she had to learn was about grief. And they said at that time, I'm going to share with you from a grandmother's perspective. And her uncle, that was one of her teachers, had explained to her that he would be in a deep sleep. And so at this time, we talk about that deep sleep, and that is when he had gone, he had journeyed on. And he had mentioned to her that there would be water upon her face. And so this is that gift of unconditional love. You show that love because that feeling that you have inside, it needs to come. It needs to come. But you know what? It's so sad we were told not to cry. And so as a result, today we have a lot of um, chaos because people don't know how to let go. Most of all, they don't know how to cry. And this is why I wear this one. I talk about the water, and my duty is to make you cry. You see, we also have our cups, for it is a time that we bring our water forward. And so tonight, I hope all of you have a bottle of water or a container of water, a cup of water. You use copper, and you. This is one of the gifts that I have. It's the most beautiful gift. It's got the stars. It's got the moon on it, and and I use this. I use it to help other people. And I know that all of you are just learning how to speak to your water. You see, you need to be kind to yourself because this is the water that the Creator is talking about. He put water in you to always help you to remove a lot of grief. You see, that's why the tears come. But when you hold back your tears, you there's that grief in here. And grandmother talks about that grief that 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 will affect our minds. And so this is why she comes 4 times. That's so beautiful that she comes and she helps us out. And tonight, Gail is with her grandson. And that is so powerful that he is hearing these stories. He's listening and he is being guided by his grandmother. Whenever the moon comes out, my children, my grandchildren, and my great grandchildren will always remember me. Because even when they were little, they would say, "I saw you last night, Grandma. I saw you looking down at me." And I said, "Yes, I was." Because, that is the most wonderful thing. Because when I look up into the sky world, I see my grandmas, I see my great grandmothers, I see all that lineage of all those women that have been a part of my life. And so every time I look up and see, you know what they call the moon? They call her the nighttime sun, because she shines so brightly. She shines, and what she has a magnificent gift to give each and every one of us. So with that, I have my candle, because every time we do a ceremony, we're always to invite the fire, because from that moon comes that light, that fire. So our fire reminds us of unconditional love. And that water that we have is also a reminder of unconditional love. You see the love. And when you do self care, you cry. I cry. It's important to cry. I was also told, don't you cry. But I learned when my grandma, she said, you cry. And you know what? My grandma had that voice that she knew. Grandmas always know when you need that time to let go of some things. Sometimes we've been bullied, sometimes we've been harassed. And in our wherever we are. And it's because people are feeling the effects of moon and they don't understand. And because they don't understand, they react and they hurt other people. When at this time, this is the time when they take that deep breath and think of that love that was given to us, not of hurt. I love our creation story because it talks about the language of love. Everything that was created out of love for us, to help us in our times, to guide us and to support us whenever we've been challenged. And just like her, I have been challenged. And all of us grandmothers, we all have been challenged. We have saw many things that can hurt a spirit. But because of her, we are now, as they say, we are now in that place of peace, because she gives that understanding of peace. I know everyone wants to have a life of peace. And so know that 3 days, I imagine you were having a lot of challenges. Maybe your car didn't start, maybe you dropped something, maybe you got in an accident, maybe your mouth hurt. As they say, your words were harmful, not only to others, but to yourself. And so those 3 days is that peak that she's pulling that water that is needed to clean us, clean our thoughts, clean our mouth, clean our what's on our chest, clean what's ever in that's troubling our stomach, and let it go. Because your tears are a good example. And that's what my grandma, she showed me. She said, I want you to cry. And sure enough, my grandma said, I want you to cry. And because of her words and how she did that, it was easy to cry. It was easy to cry. Today, people find it very hard to cry. You know why? It's because they have told themselves, they heard it, and they've been conditioned that you don't cry, you don't cry, you don't cry. So I want to show you how to open that portal, open that gift that was of self-care. And what you need to do is you need to be gentle to yourself. You need to be gentle with yourself. Because, if you don't get rid of a lot of grief, you're going to have headaches. You're going to have your mind is just like this. And so what is going to happen is that it's going to affect your stomach. It's going to affect your back. It's going to affect every cell in your body. Aren't we lucky? That water can relieve. Isn't that beautiful? It can release all that tension in our bodies. And a lot of the sickness today is due to emotional trauma, emotional holding back the tears. And a lot of times the doctors don't understand what is happening, and they'll do all kinds of tests and they still won't know because it doesn't show up on the x-ray, doesn't show up in the scanner, because what it is, it's emotional. It's the emotional part that we have held back. They can't see that it's tight there. And when they look at our throat, they don't see that. They don't see that tightness that's here. And that's why when we come here tonight to give thanks to Grandmother Moon, we know that we have to be kind to ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves. So, my grandma, my mom, and even my dad had done that. It was like this, you know, that gentle touch. It's okay. Don't they say that when you're having a rough day? It's okay. It's okay. So I'd like every one of you right now is to turn to yourself, that spirit inside you, and use that kindness that the Creator give you, because this is where the Creator is, because He give us that gift to help us to be well. And so whenever we're having a headache, our hands go like this. Oh my God, I got a headache. Or, oh, I got a sore neck. And that is how that healer in part of you is the natural part, because when the Creator blew breath into us to give us life, it was a gift of healing. So congratulations on knowing why you need to cry, because when you're gentle with yourself, you must have to go like this. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to go like this, wipe your tears, go like this. And it's okay. You say it to others, but now you need to say it to yourself. It's okay. You're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. And so what you do is you're also you have to remove that knot in that stubbornness. You know, it's as they say, it's this knowledge that we have colonized behavior. So you have that gift to heal, and that gift is your tears. And that's why Grandmother Moon comes. It's so important for you to shed those tears. So 3 days you're having all these obstacles to bring you to those tears, and let them go. Let them go. Let them go. Keep crying till, I want you to taste your tears. Taste them. And if they're salty, that tells you that you have held in a lot of hurt, anger, and pain. Your body was never meant to hold pain, anger, and hate that causes so much pain to our bodies. That's why the Creator created a valve in us. And so we need to turn on that valve to wash it away, to cleanse it. Isn't that beautiful? That's what Grandmother Moon is doing. She's pulling that water from you so that the tears would come from you. This is what I do when I do a moon ceremony. I do the teaching first. And that teaching is very important before you do ceremony. You need to know why you're doing this ceremony. How come? Who? What? When? Where? Why? You need to know all those things before you do ceremony. Then you really appreciate the ceremony much better. So tonight, I hope whenever you hold your, when you bring your water out, you uncapped it so that it can hear your words. Because water hears. Water hears. And that's why our rivers are so, our streams and everything is so contaminated, because what is the people's language today? They're swearing. They're swearing because they're hurting inside. Whenever I hear people swear, I understand. And it hurts. It hurts his heart because as a grandma, I care. I care for the people. I care for all those ones that, and that's what my grandma taught me was when the people swear, it's because their spirit is really low. And so there's that anger in there. And so when that spirit is low, it it attacks us from the inside so that we attack others. And you know that true because what are the hospitals, the police, the shelters, they're all, as they say, they have a high attendance. And that's where a lot of and they call them, they have labels now, and those labels are depression, mental illness, anxiety. It's because the people have to be connected to the moon again, and it explains everything. And even our men were a part of, just like Gail had her grandson. And that was nice because he'll understand why his partner is feeling or why he's feeling that way. Instead of them button heads later on, they will understand. And so it would be nice if every one of you had bought a calendar that shows the four phases of the moon. And when you have that, put a line up, a red line to each of those moons, and have that's still going to be those challenging days. So you'll be prepared. That's what grandmother wanted you to do, was be prepared when you're going to have challenging times in your life. You know, they talk about Indian time being late. That's not Indian time. That is a behavior because we didn't want to be on time. Because what we would have been is, as they said, our spirit may have been abused. What are you doing? They would be going like this. And so my dad always told us we always have to be ready, ready for change, ready. And how many of you were ready for the pandemic? The animals were. You see, the animals came into the towns to see if we were how we were doing because they knew, animals know, and they also go through this changing. What do you hear? You'll hear the dogs howling. You'll hear the animals acting strange because that's what. And you know what? Our men needed to know this knowledge. And for all you mothers that have a son, you must teach him about the moon. You must teach him, you know, about that, how when we have that moon time, we are affected and we affect others if we don't take care of it. And so I had my granddaughter called me up and she said, Graham, you better get over here and talk to your son because he's got three girls and then his partner. So you see, he's in a home filled with women, young women. And so I had to mention that. And so what we have today is, I can imagine how my mom must have felt because she had 8 girls. Can you imagine that? And that was a powerful thing because we were taught. I know my grandma had a lot of, because you see, my first um, my first opportunity of becoming a woman was with my grandmother, and I was so blessed. I cried. My body cried because it was the change had come. My body was telling me I had to get ready. Had to get ready to learn all these things, learn about the medicines, learn about all these things that was to help my body. I had my time of playing. Now I have to pick up my responsibility and start taking care of myself. And so my grandma explained more detail. My mom explained it, but she did a short one. Oh, once a month you're going to have what they call it, your grandma's going to come. And I says, what do you mean my grandma's going to come? How many of you heard that? Oh, we had many names for that time. Oh, the curse. Never. It was never a curse. We were given our moon time is another action of self-care. And so our women long time ago would understand this, and we would have a moon lodge where the women would go when they were on their moon time, and they would go for 5 days, and where they were tended by was the grandmothers and the aunties that were, as they say, beyond their moon time. You see, I look forward for when that time was going to come to be a mother. And that moon time was also that gift of my firstborn and the gift of my second and the gift that each one of us carries, because grandmother will say, now you're ready. I will be a part of you again. And so that grandmother is with us all the time. I'm so grateful because when my grandmother's passed away, I felt such a loss. Such a loss. And I said, who's going to help me now? Who's going to remind me of all these things? And I heard it so plainly, look up to the sky and you will remember your roles and responsibilities. And I know there was a time when I lost my spirit, just like everybody else. I was in a place where because my grandma had gone, and I didn't know that she could speak to me even when she was gone. So I would have these dreams, and she would just remind me, always look up, always look up. And so when I had that moon time, she reminded me that now I'm a young woman. And the reason I'm crying is because my body knows I have to prepare myself. And so she said, you need to prepare yourself so that your body is almost like what they call today's language. You heard of someone saying a healthy temple, a very sacred place. And you have to get your body ready so that your child will not um, will not have a lot of health problems. Isn't that amazing? We knew all these things before they have them today in parenting. You know, we weren't to let anyone hold our babies, or we weren't to be around anyone that had alcohol on their breath or anything that causes addiction, because when they spoke those words, they were as an influence, under the influence, and so they would say, oh, I love you. And so we associated alcohol, the smell of alcohol, as a relation to love. The smell of cigarette was that relationship to love. So we knew all about that long time ago. It's in our stories. And so I'm always in awe of how to get ready because grandmother moon. And so while we were in that moon lodge, that's where I would have been when the women had explained to me later on as I was growing up. They had talked about that lodge where the women would go, and I would learn how to understand my body more. I would understand the situation that was to unfold in me, and my body was changing. And she said, you have to learn how to love yourself. If you hate that moon time, you're going to have a lot of as you're inflicting more pain on yourself, because if you hate that moon time, you're going to have your body is going to say, okay, I hate it. And so what you do, it it brings a lot of pain. It's just like somebody just punching you with having so much pain. So you have to learn. That's why you rub your stomach at this time when you're going through that cycle, the moon cycle. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it before it comes. You're going to have these cravings of at that time we had healthy foods, but as time went on, what has happened now, we crave the unhealthy foods. And that's where it will affect our newborns, our children. You see, we have to create a safe nest. That's what they tell us. And that's why grandmother still influences our life, especially during our moon time. And so when we have our moon time, that is a sacred moment. That's where you learn how to take care of yourself. And this is why they say the men had to know of this time. And even when I was continuing to be in my journey, I had a lot of other that I would have called grandmas or aunties that had spoken to me about the journey of once I was told by one of my language teachers how she talked about we were so powerful in that time because what was happening was all our frustration, all of our ups and downs, our chaos in our life, all those feelings came out of us at that time. Isn't that nice to hear? And if you have, she talked about having um, later on in life, it's going to come out heavy. It's going to come out heavy. And when it does, it's an evidence that you have taken on a lot more. And now it's time for you to repair yourself, renew yourself. And so at the Moon Lodge, that's what we would do. We would hear the different grandmothers. They would be offering us the soups that would nurture our bodies, put back the nutrients that our body needs. Because as women and being mothers, our bodies needed to be nurtured because this is where our children received that kindness and goodness and that love so that our children were well taken care of. And this moment of motherhood was another big change. And my grandma said, if you're so in tune, you listen to your body, you will know. You will know when that seed has become connected. And sure enough, I knew it. I knew when the moment I was going to have life in me. What an amazing journey. It was like zing. And I felt another change come over me. And that was, now I know that my moon time was to be put on hold because it was a time of now taking all those lessons that I learned during those moon time to now take care of that nest that I was where my children were to be in. And so I had to do a lot of self-care. That means getting up very early in the morning, doing all these things, but most of all going for walks. Because then I look at the sun, the daytime sun, and then I would have still be influenced by the nighttime sun. But what they talk about is that now you will open up your eyes so that you tell your child, because your child is in that darkness. You see, there again is a lot of people are afraid of darkness, but that's your first home. Your first home was in the water. And so when this is what the meaning of the nighttime sun, that spark of life that is in us, that's also that moon time, that time of nurturing. And so where else we are connected to water. So there's a lot of teachings with Grandmother Moon. That's why you almost have to take almost a day before you go into your ceremonies so that you understand. And so when you're in that moon lodge, you know, you would learn recipes, you would learn techniques, you would learn skills of how to make different teas to put into your body. You would learn how to put back energy into your body because that energy is being given to your child. And so you learn all these magnificent skills when you're in the Moon Lodge. And so I'm grateful that right now, what would be is like all of you are in the Moon Lodge right now with me. And what I'm sharing with you is the teaching of many, many, many grandmothers of long ago, and how their life experience. And it helped us, they said, how you hear that saying, absent makes the heart grow fonder. Well, this is a time when as a woman you were given time off, right? Time off. You didn't have to do a lot of housework. You would just learn. You would leave your lodge and you would go where you would be pampered and taken care of. Because the men also realized that in this was a golden opportunity to enhance your life. It wasn't a time of, oh, there she goes again, she's gone. Who's going to do all this work? This is where they learned teamwork. Now it was the husband, now it was the children to do their support in that home. The children will know how much their mother has given to them. That partner will also know how much that woman has given to them. And so it is a greatest teaching. It talks about relationship, about helping support a home. A mother isn't supposed to do everything. It is to be all of us. That's how my grandma explained it. It's a we relationship, not a me relationship. Isn't that nice? We, we will do this. And I love doing dishes. I love doing dishes because it symbolizes again that water, that my relationship with that water. And some days you're kind of, your mind is, as they say, is sometimes overwhelmed with what you've been going through the day. And I really love it because I do dishes. I mean, you can do dishes in the evening. And so what you're doing is, oh, I just love that warm and that suds. And when you're washing your dishes, my grandma said, every time you wash a plate, you're washing something off of your spirit. Isn't that nice? Washing and cleaning your thoughts. It's like washing your mind and taking away. Oh, I have such a relationship with washing dishes. And it's because of that relationship with water. How water was given to us to make us be well and to be in balance and help us get ready for the evening. And so this is there's so many teachings in the Moon Lodge. And so I have a couple of binders. I'll show you one of them. It's this big one. And so I have another one down here, and I have at least three of them. And I use a lot of those teachings because it talks about our health and our wellness and our well-being. And so we need to look after ourselves because our body was meant to live, to be here for a long time. But because we as women are doing a lot more of for everybody else, but not for ourselves. Again, that's the most important lesson, is our moon time was given to us to show people have responsibilities in that home. So when that mother came back into the home, wow, can you imagine how well she was, how she felt? It was like being at the spa for 5 days, being pampered, being taken care of, being given all the solutions and how to overcome the challenges. And so this is why it would be what you would call a spa day today. Isn't that nice? You see, I was asked to share this. I was invited. It started out with the journey of the seed, and it was the journey of the seed through a young girl before she has her moon time. Then it became, the next stage was when she became that young woman that was preparing her body for that seed to come to her to have life. And then the next journey was the seed of a grandmother. And so it shows the story of that seed. And we had that, we would do it once a month. around. It was a Tuesday of it was every month, and so I was telling the group, I said, this is how we would been taken care of a long time ago. You see, the Creator gave this gift to us so that we could be strong women. Strong. This is why in the people of the longhouse, the women were were looked upon with much respect. They had that power. And so this is what happened was I said, this is the things that helped us to have a clear mind and to learn how to be in touch with our spirit, with in touch with creation, because we got rid of a lot of, oh, I wish I could have did this, I did this, or I should have did that. You know, it helped us because there was grandmothers that had their life experience that could share this with us. So when the mother returned, can you see how it would just like she got a complete massage and her hair, everything done. Oh, and then she comes back. She has much more energy. She is filled with love. She's filled with all that, that caring. And so now she, because she feels so much of that, she shares that with with her family. Isn't that awesome? So the family, in turn, this is why we have, as you would call it, one of the gifts of peace, because our family would have peace, our community would have peace, the whole nation would have peace because the women were taken care of in that way, so that they would have that clarity and that understanding and that feeling of obtaining peace. And so as a result, I was telling these women, they said, well, let's have a, can we have a moon lodge? And so we said, well, we'll try. And so there was three women, and we were all different ages. I was the grandmother, the other one was the auntie, the two aunties. And so what happened was she submitted a proposal, and we got it. And so now we are doing the Moon Lodge every month, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's very interesting that many of women are waking up because we've been doing ceremonies for other women, because that power was taken away, that understanding. And it's true because I used to be the grandmother at a treatment center, but I wish I would call it. Um, I had told many of them that I would have called it coming home, because they would come home to understand about life. And so I was called grandmother there. They asked me if they could call me grandmother, as I've shared with many of you before. And I said I'd be honored. And I asked questions about what did they know about their grandmother. And you know what? I would say only 10% would know. And that's how much they needed to bring that back, because that's what has caused a lot of addictions, broken spirit. So we need to get back to that Moon Lodge. We need to get back to those teachings, because we are responsible to having healthy seeds. When we teach our men to have healthy seeds, and that's why the Moon Lodge played a very important role. And so we learned all these things before we would do ceremony, so that we would, as I said, we would understand. The men also learned from their wives when they would go home. Ah, this is what grandma said. And so the men started to remember. The men started to remember what they needed to do. Because you see, they had to make things a long time ago. It wasn't bought off the shelf. The men had to make things. But they had to understand that the water in those trees that would be the same as us, they have that relationship with the moon too, grandma. And she pulls that water. There's our, that's our science. That's our science. And they also knew that killing animals, oh, the hunters, they knew that. This is why it plays a very important role that our men need to know these teachings of Grandmother Moon, because it also helps them to understand their emotions. Because you see, when they don't understand these emotions, a lot of them will there will be something that will trigger them, and they will cause their minds to get busy, and then it becomes of negative energy, and it affects all the family. And so this is when a lot of them will sabotage their home relationship because they don't understand. And as a result, they'll go, as they say, hurting themselves by drinking and smoking and doing all these other things just to find that understanding in their heart. Why am I feeling this? And so even my dad talked about that. He must have learned it from his mom about how you're not to kill animals, because my dad grew up on a farm and they knew all about agriculture according to the moon. And what do we have today? We have this. This was a result of us sharing with the newcomers. You see, they wrote down things. They wrote down things. So one of my mentors, I'm a language teacher, she said, "This is our knowledge." They wrote it down. So in there it tells about when to cut, when to make things, and this is what our people knew by memory. So they knew when to fish, they knew when to hunt, they knew when to for a garden, because that's how much Grandmother Moon plays a role in our lives. So we knew what kind of weather was going to be. So it talks about all these things that I'm sharing with you. So this is another relationship to Grandmother Moon. It talks about all these things that we had shared with those that come. And this is science. This is indigenous science. So you see, we are truly amazing that we were so connected to that relationship of knowing what the influence of Grandmother Moon. And so the men, they were told that the animals feel the same as us. And so you're not to kill these animals during that moon time, because they also feel that energy of the universe. They Dogs feel sadness, animals feel sadness, they feel the same kind of emotions we do. Why do you think they're good pets? They understand what our bodies are going through because they experience that. And so they respected the animals. They knew when to kill and not to kill. And so my dad talked about slaughtering pigs, because they had a farm, they had pigs, they had chickens, they had all these things. And so I remember my dad talking about preparing the meat for the winter, and it was just like, wow, I remembered that. So it was just like my spirit was saying, remember that, remember that, remember that. And then I asked him later on, did Grandma teach you that? And he just smiled. You see, grandmothers and women are the first teachers of life. And that's why we were given that position. And that's why the Creator gave us our moon time, so that we would learn how to regulate our bodies, knowing how that we were going to be taken care of. And as I was telling you that I was at a treatment center and I asked them about the moon, oh, they didn't know nothing. And there was a young lady there that she said, I don't have my moon time. I don't like it. And so I'm taking pills. And I went like, oh my God, don't you know what you're doing to your body? I said, you're going to have a lot of um, consequences that your body's not going to be able to function in a natural way of taking care of yourself. So those are some of the things that we needed to know. And I also, I said, when we would do moon ceremonies at the treatment center, I would invite the men, but they would go, no, we can't go there. We are not supposed to be there. That's for the women. And I said, yes, a woman's lodge. Yes, you do. But I said, you need to be there because you need to take care of us because we're sitting out there in the cold. We're sitting out there in the natural element. I said, so you men can sit on the outside and take care of us, that our ceremony is done in security and safety, and that we're also going to be warm. It was very hard to remind him, but I'm glad there was a young man. He came forward and he said, I'll look after the fire for you because he remembered that role. The men are supposed to be the fire keepers there. And so he did that for me. And he says, I had said in our ceremony before we start, I said, all this is going to be validated by science. One day it's going to be validated how we take care of our water that's inside us, how we take care of the water. It's by using those kind words. And he says, Grandma, he's the one that told me. He's the one that, see, they're teachers all the time. Different ones come to me and they share what their grandma has said. And he said, Grandma, there's a man across the water. He says, he's a doctor. And he's proven what you're saying right now. And his name is Dr. Emoto. I hope you remember that name because Dr. Emoto, Dr. Emoto. And he talks about um, the water, the power of water. He has several books and he has experiments that shows you what happens to you when you swear, when you do the thing. And so it talks about how our first language is of love. And so we learn to use the language of love. And that's what I put on my containers of water. I have my crystals and I have the moon phases on here. And I have, because they're part of nature. And I use the water to heal. Yes. You want to believe in miracles? Water does heal. Water does heal. How many of you take showers? Right? Water heals. Heals that moment that you may have gone through some struggles or whatever. Water heals. Water makes us refresh. Water, we're doing ceremony when we're with water. And that's why you need to learn about why we do these things and for the moon ceremony, because you see all the benefits of that moon ceremony. Going back to the animals, well, the animals know today people have lost respect for the animals. And we're always told you are what you eat. So be careful. I know you love hamburgers. I know you like that. And so just be careful because you never know when that animal is killed. Because if you ate an animal that was slaughtered when it was angry, this is why you're having those emotions. You see, the animals are very, very smart. And he knows when he is selected to get in this, as they say, this corral, he knows where he's going because he senses it. He knows, just like we know when we're not supposed to be where we should be. This animal knows he's going to his death. So what do you think he has when he knows? He has fear, he has resistance, and so he doesn't want to go there. And so they have to kind of beat him to get in there. And when he's in that trailer filled with other animals, what's he'd been doing is he's been in the traffic and there's a lot of horns blowing. So he's traumatized again. And the driver is probably hollering because he is affected by the moon. So you can see how much the animal has taken on, not only his own trauma, but the trauma of the surrounding environment, the traffic, the driver, and the people. And so when he gets close to that slaughterhouse, he can smell blood. He can smell blood. You know, those ones in the slaughterhouse, wow, they're affected by all that blood that's being taken or at that time. And so you can imagine all that fear, all that anger, all those emotions of negative is in that animal resistance. And what do? They slaughter them. And that every muscle, every tissue in that animal has anger inside that little cell, that muscle. So just be careful. That's why our people knew to kill after the moon had changed, because the animal would be more relaxed, more calmer, more. And even our men that go hunting, what they are to do is they must catch an animal that is, as they say, is if he's running, they have to hang it. So they have to release that, and they release that blood right away. When so, isn't that powerful, beautiful? How they're respecting that animal's life, and this is why they catch them. They're supposed to um, shoot them when they're at that calm stage. But the most important thing is how our men were offering tobacco, because they knew that the animals know this. This goes back to the Ganaligoa in the Peacemaker's journey. It talks about how the deer came forward to help us to be well. And there again, the animals are guided by the foods that they eat to help bring medicine to us. There is so much detail into all this. So we need to start looking at the changes of the moon. We need to start putting a calendar in our home, because even our workplace, for all those that are in organizations, always plan. Don't plan any gathering or any conference or any good important meetings. Don't plan them 3 days before each moon, because there's going to be a lot of challenges for you. Learn how to plan them 3 days after. 3 days after, and you will succeed. That's what they call Indian time, knowing how to prevent a lot of chaos. And that's truly Indian time, because Indian time was you are always prepared, knowing how many have had your pantry filled. You see, that's Indian time, being prepared. So take care and listen to your body, because it tells us a lot of things, especially from Grandmother Moon. And you know, whenever you need help, go up there and speak to her, because that energy that's coming down from her is the energy that hits our spirit. It connects to our spirit, and we understand what it's like. It's like it speaks to our spirit, and we have those aha moments. We have those moments of, now I know what to do with my life. It's almost like she takes all that negative energy, and what are we doing? We're crying when we're talking to her. I do that a lot, because of how much you care, how much I care. I have to take care of this body. And if I didn't, I would be broken. I would be broken. I would have health problems to boot. So, using this cup, using using water, I get myself ready. I get myself ready. I build up my body. This is why the pandemic came, was to teach us again how to look after ourselves. This is what Grandmother Moon was. When you see there's signs around the moon, it's telling you there may be a storm. There's going to be something that's going to be big changes, but it's always to take care of ourselves, to prepare ourselves, and this is why we are to look at it. And so we shouldn't be calling them January, February, March, or May. To us, it was a time of January was a time of difficult winter. It was mentioned it was a cold. It was a time of being very cold, and it was talking about the wolves, because our people would hear the wolves. This is when the wolves would come. because now they were starting to get hungry because it it was hard to find food, and so those wolves would be howling looking for food. So February, oh well, I'll go back. It says for the Anishinaabe, it was Spirit Moon. Now I like that phrase, Spirit Moon, because when you're out there during the winter when the snow and see the glow, it's just like you can. It's just like you can see so much more. See with the different eyes. A lot of people today, they have to use flashlight. They can't go outside without using a flashlight. We forgot how to use our eyes. We forgot how to prepare our eyes for the nighttime, for the daytime, for the evening time. And so this is why we have um, challenges. We'll fall, we'll trip. And so we learn how to, when the moon. So for February, it is nature is late. Isn't that so true? And February is where we have a lot of snow. So it's called full snow. Isn't that amazing? It is a time of the full snow. So we know we're going to get a lot of snow. In Anishinaabe, they call it the time of the bear moon. Bear. And that's when it says going within. And so we knew of the bear. It's so beautiful how they describe each month in the language. It talks about what is happening in that time. January doesn't really give you the real understanding how our language does. It gives us what is happening at this time, what the animals are doing. So they're telling us how to be prepared. And so Grandmother Moon is this is how she prepared us for the year so that we would know what was coming, so we didn't have to be upset and angry and as they said, be mad at the world. We knew what was going to be happening, so we had to be prepared. So March was a time of they say the fall full worm. Well, now life was starting to move, and so it is because of the tree. The tree has now become an awake, and the tree is the first messenger. So saying March doesn't tell you the whole story. It doesn't tell you what is happening with nature. And they say now the trees are starting, they're sending messages, they're stretching, and they're telling all creation, get ready. And so who is the first to hear is the worms. And so those worms started to, because they've been, as they say, in a deep sleep, now they become awake. And we know that because the water, see, just explaining March talks about now the trees are giving us a new life to help us to get ready for the coming year, because we may have had a sluggish and fasting time. So now they give us that, what we call sweet water. And so the tree, it gives us that nutrients that our body needs to get ready. And so now all those spring plants that is going to help us, like leeks and all those other plants, we know what's going to come because that tree has told all creation to get ready. And so it also tells when we can start using the trees. Also, it goes back to when it's really cold, back to January, that's how grandma is. Grandma, every month, she talks about what is going to happen. That's why they say the time of difficult moon. That's what grandma says. Now the trees are going to, they call it, I can't think right now what my grandpa called it. It's when that old man winter goes around and he hits those trees. That's how cold it used to get a long time ago. And you could hear that for miles. You could hear that big crack, and the grandpa would say, he's gone to tell us what wood we can use next year. He's gone around and he's gone to make sure those trees are they're going to be getting ready for us for next year. So there's more to it than when you say January. You see the whole process of changing coming. And so it's like us being being prepared. That's Indian time. And so now we're into for Anishinaabe, it was on Sugar Moon, and that was also with us too. It was a time of cleansing. See, again, it talks about when you drink that sweet water, it was detoxifying yourself, cleaning yourself out. Now is a time that you need your body to get ready. And so now we come into April. Now the leaves are begin to open up. Isn't that beautiful? Because you see the spring, the grass and everything starts coming up in April, and the flowers they start to come. So it talks about the leaves are beginning to open up, and so it's called full. Excuse me, the flower moon. It talks about the how the but also the rivers. It talks about the rivers, how the rivers are going to be pink. Now, why is it called the pink moon? Because salmon is running now. Now that's our new diet. I mean, that's our diet to supplement nourishment for our bodies. And our bodies need that to prevent us from having arthritis, what you call fish oil. Isn't it? Oh, we could do a whole series of what each month means and why grandmother is called that. It's to tell us to heads up, here's what's going to happen. And so even with the Anishinaabe, they also call it the sucker moon. This is when the fish will now start to come. And I remember my mom saying a long time ago, you could see the fish. And she said it was almost like you could walk across them because there would be so many of them. She said it was an exciting time when you go to the river or to the creeks that run into the river. She says because the fish would come up and you would see them, and the fish would be so close that you could almost seem like you could walk across them, and you would see the water just moving like that. And she said that was quite a thing to see. So you see, when they're talking about all these things, the sucker moon, and that is getting our bit or getting our body ready, preparing us for the winter. Isn't that nice? Self-care, getting us ready for the fall so that we don't get sick. Learning how to look after ourselves. There's grandma again giving us this advice. And so now we go into the time of May. Now the leaves are opening up, and they said when it's the size of a what animal size of its ears, then you need to start getting ready to start planting. Now that's another whole big story. Now there are things you need to do to get ready for planting. There are ceremonies, and each month had a ceremony according to what grandmother was saying. And so those ceremonies was of gratitude. That's the reason we're having this, is because we're acknowledging, we're getting ready, we're going to be prepared for what is unfolding. And so May was a time of the full flower. So now it was time to plant corn. And there are things we need to do with our seeds. There are seed songs. And that goes into another whole big story again. And so it talks about always nurturing, always giving gratitude to these things that is coming to us, so we don't have to complain and grumble and say that nobody loves us. We never been abandoned. And that's what grandmother wants us to know. Nobody has ever been abandoned. She's always looking after us and taking care of us. And she has a structure. That's what every one of us need, is needing to know structure. You see, the nighttime, you are to be resting. You're not supposed to be up after 11. I would even say like 10 o'clock, because we were to be up before the sun got up. There's that teaching. There's so much teaching in our universal structure of life. This is why it was a code to live by, so that we would be prepared and knowing what we had to do. And so we would have to get the seeds ready. There's There are ceremonies, and there's also games and how to prepare the land. Oh, and that is excitement of preparing the land. So you see, we should learn all about the months again instead of, I mean, the moon, so that it talks about what is going to happen. So I know I only got far as May. So you can
Oh,
imagine,
finish.
oh, it's going to take a little
I
longer.
know. I was
Yeah.
just, you're so amazing. Like there was a code, like all of everything that you talk about. I didn't want to interrupt, but I know you've had a long day and you're here doing this. And Gail and I are both in the back room talking to each other saying, she's so good. We don't want to interrupt her, but we wanted to support you. Uh, there are so many beautiful messages, and you should have your own show. You should be on TV. I don't know. I'm just you're amazing, and your voice and your messages uh, just remind me why I'm on this path with you and the grandmas, and I just to bring these teachings and understandings to the people so that we can live in harmony and just the best way that we can to serve each other and ourselves and Mother Earth. I'm just so grateful for you.
Grateful to all those that shared this with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here it says, do a session with Grandmother Renee, monthly teachings of each month. We're working on that. We are, yeah, it's happening. There's a lot of development, and when I first met Grandma Renee and Gail, and they were introducing me to culture and the understandings, I was like, well, we need to get this out to the world. And they're like, we've been doing that. We've been going from community to community. I want to say for decades, for you, for centuries, because of the women, right? And it's true. We need this language. We need this for our children and the healing of the people. And so this is what Grandmother's Voice has been doing in our community, and what these women have been doing for so long. And they deserve this space. They deserve to be heard. And we're just going to keep doing this until they have their own show, their own talk show. I think they should. I think that come on, right beside Oprah. Well, she's not here anymore. You could do that. I watched from when you started, Renee. I was out this evening doing an opening with a really beautiful room of people who serve our community, and I listened to you the whole time, and it just lifts my spirit. And seeing all of these messages here, you've lifted the spirit of many people. And so, remember that you can always go back into our YouTube channel, and you can share this video. That those of you that joined us, you can share this video in your feeds. You can share them with your family. You can share them with people who you think might need some support and inspiration. Um, you know, yeah, Nyawa from my heart for what you share.
There was no time. It was just like just flowing. I just like, oh,
Mm-hmm. I know, and I feel bad for interrupting you, but I was like, she's been doing this for like an hour, and I know what your days are like. You serve, and it's easy to be in that space for. So, but I would love for you to go through Renee and just see these beautiful messages that people are sharing with you.
Okay. And I forgot to mention, along with Grandmother Moon, she has her helpers. And that's all, I would say, all those that have life experience. And this is why the star world, the sky world, they are still there to remind us that we play a very important role in the coming phases. And they're there to remind us on how to be good human beings so that we each can be a star. So I want to say, Nyawa, thank you to the ancestors for allowing me to share this, and to Gail and her grandchildren, that she was sharing her stories with her grandchildren. And so I like to honor and thank her for doing what she does, is being with them at this time.
Now, for all of your support, and for yeah, for this beautiful time. Love you.